Good morning. And make room, they're still coming in. A receptive listener. Make room for the frightened, those who fade. Make room for the hungry, those whose needs have gone unmet for far too long. Make room. Make room. Make room for the winners, whether they deserved it or not. Make room for the losers, whether they deserved it or not. Make room for the great and the small, the agile and the awkward. Make room for the latecomers, the bedraggled, badgered, careless, carefree, and oblivious. Make way for their rush, their frivolity, their sweetness, their regret. Why make room? Because there's a chance that there are still more out there who might share in what draws each of us here today, which, according to Annie Dillard, is often something like this. We are here to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house. Good morning. Welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. I'm Reverend Paul Beckel. Welcome to those of you who are here in person. Welcome to those of you who are with us on Zoom. Please stay afterward to join us for coffee and conversation downstairs. E.B. White wrote, "It's hard to know when to respond to the seductiveness of the world and when to respond to its challenges. If the world were merely seductive, that would be easy. If it were merely challenging, that would be no problem. But I arise in the morning, torn between the desire to improve the world and the desire to enjoy the world. That makes it hard to plan the day." With that, I am going to light the chalice and invite you to say together our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant. Come on up.
Please join us in singing hymn number 1054 in the Teal hymnal. Let this be a house. Please stand up.
Nature and humanity, of sorrow and elation. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences fear shall not divide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let us in this house sing true, where scientists and mystics abide in reverence here. Let this be our house, a house of our creation, where words of art and melodies consecrate the
And now I have a story just for you guys. Don't look. It's about a duck named Henry, of course. So, you can see here he's making salad, as ducks do. The day Henry the duck asked his friend Clara over for supper, he found an ant in the kitchen. Can you see the ant on there? Way down in the bottom.
Oh my God, it apparently has eyes.
Henry was worried that Clara would see the ant. She might think his house was not clean. The ant had to go. Look, it's still there. Henry reached for a can of ant spray, but he didn't want to spray near the food he was cooking, so he chased the ant with a frying pan instead. It's still there. Henry ran around the kitchen, chasing after the ant. The ant got away and hid behind the stove. It's kind of hard to see, but it's still there. Henry took the food he was cooking off the stove. He shut off the flame and pulled the stove away from the wall. Aha! He saw the ant. The ant saw Henry and ran into a small crack in the wall. So Henry, of course, went and got a hammer. Henry pounded a big hole in the wall where the crack was, but he couldn't find the ant. I don't see it in that picture. I don't know where it went. It went in the hole, maybe. He just kept on pounding to find out. And the hole got bigger and bigger until at last Henry found the ant. He saw it sitting on a pipe inside the wall, way up there. Henry aimed his hammer at the ant and he missed. The blow of the hammer broke the pipe. What do you think would have happened if he had actually hit hit the ant. Maybe it wouldn't have broken the pipe. I think it probably would have anyway. Either way, it was probably a bad idea. Water came shooting out of the pipe, and Henry couldn't stop it. He grabbed a towel and tied it around the pipe, which always works. And the water stopped shooting out. But Henry hadn't stopped the water soon enough. It had sprayed all over the kitchen, and everything was soaking wet, except for Clara's supper, thank goodness. Henry began mopping up the puddles of water. All at once he slipped and banged against the kitchen table, and everything came crashing down. Henry was covered with pots and pans and food. The supper was ruined. There was nothing Henry could do now but to call Clara and tell her not to come. Oh, after all that work. While Henry was talking on the telephone, the towel came loose from the pipe. The water came shooting out and flooded the whole house. Henry was carried right out the front door by the flood. Oh, yes, you saw it. You found it. There's an ant still there on the box. Yes, I'm glad you found it. Is it on the earlier pages? Oh, in the previous page, it's back there behind the stove, and then it's on that box. Okay, so now what's going to happen? Oh, God. There was no going back. Poor Henry's house was washed away by the flood. He saved what he could and moved into a new house.
Looks like you learned your lesson.
You think? When Henry was settled into his new house, he again asked Clara over for supper. Just as he went to the door to let Clara in, what's down there? He saw an ant. Guess what? He looked the other way. So we're going to sing you off to your classrooms now. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark, your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
We bring you two songs today as a heads up for the special collection to be taken next Sunday for our sister city, Magyar Szovat, in Romania. The songs are in Hungarian, the language of our friends in Magyar Szovat, and of Béla Bartók, who preserved these folk songs. And first, we'll perform the Dry Branch. A rose glowing on a dry branch reminded me of my lost love. Would that I had been able to cut down 1,000 rose bushes rather than lose my love. garden next to mine, a girl was collecting leaves in her apron. Her little mouth was puckered in delight as she chattered to herself.
Thank you, Jane and Rika. Oh, you probably need that one. Yeah, go for it. There we go. Sorry.
I'm Judy Casper. I head up the hospitality team, and we are very happy to welcome 3 new members to the Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship this morning. Building community is essential at Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. Building community is a life-affirming, sometimes challenging, and always complex art, one that takes practice, reflection, and reaffirmation from time to time.
As we grow in our relationships, we appreciate new faces, new ideas, and new perspectives. So we appreciate the opportunity today to welcome our newest members and to renew our sense of purpose as a beloved community. New members, will you please come forward? And I invite you to introduce yourself and tell us what brought you to Buff and what you bring to Buff. And then I'll ask you to sign the membership book, give you a official round button.
Good morning. My name is John Krasika. We've just recently moved here from the Philadelphia area. I was in the Navy from 1982 to 1990. I met Rena in 1988. I decided I liked her better than the Navy, so that's why I got out of the Navy. And ever since then, I've been working for a company in the Philadelphia area doing defense-related work. I currently manage a large contract we have with the Navy, and I've been working remotely since 2020. And we joined the church there, Delaware County Unitarian Universalist Church. That was in 1997. We really got a lot out of that church, did a lot in RE, helped out with pledging and stuff like that and whatnot. And it really relate to the UU principles. We moved to this area in September, and we're joining the church. We've met a number of people here. We really like what we see so far, and we're looking forward to continuing to be contributing members for your church. Thank you.
Go ahead if you
Good
sign
morning.
it. If
I'm
you
Rena
print
Jusika.
neatly, go
John
ahead
gave
and
you a
print,
lot of the
otherwise
background. But Unitarian Universalism has been a really important part of my life for the last 25 years. As he mentioned, we joined the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County, which is not in Delaware, by the way. And subsequent to that, I was church staff at that church for over 2 decades. And I really appreciated what Jane had to say about community, because that is truly what brings us here. I haven't been in Bellingham since the early 70s. Both Bellingham and I have changed a great deal. So we're seeking community here. We're seeking ways to live out our principles in community. And and to support me while I deal with life changes with my elderly mother just across the border. And we're looking forward to finding the ways that we can be involved and get to know all of you as well.
Said short people could move the microphone. I wrote it down because I tend to go off on tangents. So I came to Buff with almost no religious background. We were pretty much go to church on Easter Sunday family when I was growing up. And we moved back and forth between San Jose and Stockton, California. And we picked the Presbyterian church to go to when I was a kid for those Easter Sundays. I also joined the Vacation Bible School, as I'm sure many of you did. And the thing I liked about the Vacation Bible School is that apparently one summer the mothers in the neighborhood all got together and decided that all the kids in the neighborhood should go to everybody else's Vacation Bible School. So we went to the Presbyterian one, which was ours. We went to the Lutheran. The other one I remember is the Seventh-day Adventist. I got to carry the flag in the closing parade. The other thing that we did was we visited other churches. And so we went to the Greek Orthodox Church, which was amazing. It was just an incredible place. We went to the Catholic Church. We went to the Jewish synagogue. And when we came to Bellingham, my partner and I came here in 1979. And I got a job as a librarian at the Bellingham Public Library. Some of you may recognize me from that. I was there for 32 years. And we were invited by our dear friend Will Ellender to come to Buff back in the 80s, which we did and loved it, but we got lazy. And so we stopped coming for a while. And this past March, my wife of 45 years passed away, and I went down to California because that's where we were from, and she is now buried in the cemetery with other members of her family down there, for which I am very grateful. I spent 3 months with my fabulous, huge family of in-laws down there. And while I was there, I reconnected with a very special longtime friend of mine who had been a Unitarian for years. And we talked about what the Unitarians stand for, what it means to be a member of a congregation like this. And I started attending services of the Kern UU congregation, which is a fabulous little group. It's a very small group. They have lay leaders, and they're just fabulous people. And so that's my story of how I got here. Now, Paul says I'm supposed to tell you what I cannot, instead of rude microphone, what I bring to you. So what I bring to you, first of all, is love. For all of you, for the kindness that you have shown me in the time I've been back here, and for our community of Buff members. The second thing is I'm a worker. So if you need volunteers, I'm your girl. I also promise to sing, but not too loudly because I can't carry a tune if my life depended on it. And finally, to support Buff and its work, spiritually, monetarily, as I'm able, and in the community. And I thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to join your congregation. Thank you.
Speaking now to the people of Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship, will you embrace these new members who have pledged to support the work of this community, both financially and in their own unique ways, always rediscovering the intersections between their gifts and fresh opportunities for Buff to grow into its mission? Will you make room for these people and look for ways to include them in our caring community? We will offer you here a place of rest and solace, and endless opportunities to learn and to serve. We will accept responsibility for our own actions, strive to practice forgiveness, and expect you to do the same.
Having heard how this congregation welcomes you, please receive their joy as you go in and join the team. May this community be blessed in our ministry. May we honor the covenant we share, always growing with these folks and those we have not even yet met, learning together and deepening our connections. And I invite you now into a spirit of meditation. Have a Taoist reflection to share. Let's breathe together in a position where we're both comfortable and alert, knowing that we're held in community here. Kang, the master carver, made a bell stand of precious wood. When it was finished, all who saw it were astounded. They said it must be the work of spirits. The Prince of Lu said to the master carver, "What is your secret?" Kang replied, "I have no secret. There is only this. When I began to think about the work you set for me, I guarded my spirit, did not expend it on trifles that were not to the point. I fasted in order to set my heart at rest. After 3 days fasting, I had forgotten gain and success. After 5 days, I had forgotten praise or criticism. After 7 days, I had forgotten my body with all its limbs. By this time, all thoughts of Your Highness and of the court, too, had faded away. All that might distract me from the work had vanished. I was collected in the single thought of the bell stand. Then I went to the forest to see the trees in their own natural state. When the right tree appeared before my eyes, the bell stand also appeared in it, clearly, beyond doubt. All I had to do was to put forth my hand and begin. If I had not met this particular tree, there would have been no bell stand at all. What happened? My own collected thought encountered the hidden potential in the wood. From this live encounter came the work which you would ascribe to the spirits. Let's take a moment now to visualize the forest we might step into. Finding the right tree for what it is, the work that is set before you. King, the master carver, made a bell stand of precious wood. When it was finished, all who saw it were astounded. They said, "It must be the work of spirits." What does it mean, master carver? Could this story apply to any of us? To you? Or is King unique in his capacity to focus and create? Does he become a master carver before or because the bell stand is completed? The Prince of Lu asked, "What is your secret?" King replied, "When I began to think about the work you set for me, I went into the forest." Has the work of your life been set out for you? But then King forgets on purpose. He forgets everything peripheral. Criticism, praise, reward, outside pressures, he sets it all aside. And then what he has created, it turns out, is just what was called for. Lovely in that moment. But I don't think the point of this story is that he created something perfect for all time. I imagine that the timeline of this parable could be very, very short. Maybe just one moment at a time. Though as a human being, I'm going to give myself a little leeway not to compress all of that into every moment. Maybe one day at a time might be reasonable, but I think it could go on any variety of timelines. So you get that voila, there it is moment. And then you picture it and accept it and enter into it. Then at the end of the day, let it go. Then, if we're fortunate, getting an extra hour of sleep before waking again to the call of the new day. And then waking again to the priority of the new moment, or hour, or day, or week. Not because everything from yesterday is finished. I think this is how mindfulness turns into prioritizing and then engaging. Not with everything, everywhere, all at once, but by cutting away to what is essential, just for now. Stripping away the excess to reveal the whole. I can't remember if that was in the poem or where I saw that line, but the carver stripping away the excess to reveal the whole. The process of creative diminishment. When it happens, it appears to be the work of the spirits. One thing I struggle with is the feeling of having not priorities, but too many priorities. Not everything, everywhere, all at once, maybe, but it sure feels like it. Not just what seem to be infinite possibilities, but also commands, demands that I must meet and engage in all of those opportunities now on their schedule. And then, when done, make sure it's perfect. But King went into the forest to see the trees in their own natural state. There's so much going on in the forest. That's okay. We're going into this interdependent web. Everything else going on, doing its thing, the worms crawling, the wind blowing, the fox hunting, the stone being, the breath breathing, the plunger plunging the toilet, the pen writing a love letter. I open myself and I encounter the hidden potential in the wood. From that encounter came the work to which you ascribe the spirits. A lot of Unitarians, Unitarian Universalists, balk at the word worship. Whoa, they say, I don't worship anything. That's the way I feel. I don't bow down to anything in heaven or on earth, not to supernatural gods or golden coins. I try not to bow down before money. I try not to bow down to my other obsessions. And correct, worship is often idolatry, whether it's the worship of something mystical or physical, external or internal. It's wise to be cautious, recognize what we might be worshiping. But it also may be helpful to know the etymological roots of that word, which refer to the discovering and acknowledging that which is worthy. So many of the things swirling around us and digging deep into our guts, bubbling through our minds, not worthy. Regrets, vain expectations of ourselves and expectations of others, not worthy of our attention. And yet we attend to them, we focus on them, we bow to their demands on their schedule. We bow down and sacrifice to them some of our most precious gifts, including our time. So what for you today is most worthy? Saving the world? Savoring it? Going with your strengths? Making the most of what you're already good at? Or learning a new skill? Or is it most worthy of the moment to be open to whatever the moment brings and respond as it comes? After all, there's the old Yiddish saying, we make plans and God laughs. Tuned into our hearts, tuned into our minds, tuned into our physical reflexes and our most basic human needs like breathing, we recognize what is worthy for ourselves in this moment, on this day. Maybe on Sundays for you, what's most worthy of your time and attention and hands and money is playing to your strengths. Mondays, perhaps stretching beyond your comfort zone. How can we tell? How can we tell if we are spending our energy on that which is most worthy? If we're exhausted, is that a good sign? It might be, or it might not. We can be most spiritually alive when we're tuned into the tiniest detail for years at a time. If it's something that brings us alive, like maybe searching for that biomechanical switch for a cancer gene. Or we can be bogged down in those tiny details like how and when and who I should take revenge toward. Or we can float around through life with no plans, just performing random acts of kindness. Or we can float around through life with no plans, bloating ourselves on everything sweet and superficial. We can consider what's worthy in this moment based on what has been working, where we've succeeded, or the opposite. Maybe it's something we're struggling with. Maybe something that doesn't seem to be working, but might be preparing us for that which is yet to come. I think we know intuitively what is worthy of us. It comes to us through conscience, which we're born with, our innate sense of humanity and each other's humanity. And it comes through us through experience, through trial and error, and lessons learned the hard way. And it comes to us through being a part of a community, the communities that we choose or accidentally fall into. When we listen to one another, we listen to the lessons that others have learned, and sometimes they tell it to us, and sometimes we just soak it in by osmosis. Sometimes just enjoying the beauty and the goodness and the hope that they point out when it's hard for us to see. William James wrote that wisdom is knowing what to overlook. Stephen Covey in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People taught those who would listen not to waste energy on problems over which we have no control. I would add that there's also no value in wasting energy on the problems over which we could have control, but we know that we can't do it all. So not everything that we could have control over is worthy of our attention. When we can go to 1,000 websites a day, when we can zip through time to know things, I don't know, I'm sure you can imagine all the things you can do today that you probably couldn't do 20 years ago. How many more things are making demands on us? And what is most worthy of your moment? We're going to be much more effective at dealing with our priorities if we have the nerve and the courage, the maturity and the wisdom to let the other things go. Maybe just for now, but maybe forever, because every one of us is going to die without everything finished. So we can do our piece of saving the world and savoring it, both. In the next 7 hours or 7 days or 7 months, we can be very deliberate about our choices to save the world and savor it. We can be deliberate or we can just go with the flow. Any of these possibilities can be healthy and ethical and lived into with both serenity and hope. Amen. You bring so many gifts, and they're all appreciated. Some we know about, some we're still finding out about, some you are still finding out about. We have an extraordinarily broad mission at Buff, and all of the work that you do together on yourself and out in the world to bring kindness and wholeness is the work of this congregation. We take a collection every Sunday so that, depending upon your financial resources, that can be an important way to share of your gifts. Everyone finds their own way. me and closing song, Life Calls Us On. Here in reverence
For the blessings we have known, with our pledge to one another, that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us one into all that is God. Life calls us on. Love calls us Words and deeds
waken here to keep us strong. Lend our voices
creation's living song. Courage bids us lift our eyes upward to the shining sky. Calls us lead us with a trusted light. Bless our days with mercy. Shows the path of truth and light. Honor is their earthly prize. By their worth we realize. Faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. We have shared a great hour when the truth has made us free, and the Spirit's gracious power. Dream of good that yet shall be. Bright the valley forest rise. Joyful pilgrims now we rise. Life calls us on. Life calls us on. Life calls us on. Life calls
And please join me in our benediction. It's up here and in the hymnal number, is it 568? Yes. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking at what is happening. More than half of a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Send like squash plant over us the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs. Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen. Keep reaching out. Keep bringing it in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. And let us circle around for freedom. We've got enough people probably that we're going to want an inner circle and an outer circle, and imperfect circles for sure.